Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm finally answering all the questions you guys submitted through Instagram. I know it's been a long time, but finally I'm doing it. Let's jump right into it. Did you have any culture shocks from Korea that really surprised you and left an impression? In Korea, people stare at their phones all the time. When they're walking, when they're going up the stairs, just anytime. So if you're on the street and you're walking wherever, people are just gonna be walking like this and they're going to walk into you almost. So you really have to be careful about not bumping into people. Did living in Korea change any of your habits or behaviors compared to Europe? I make way more sounds when I'm listening to people speak. So if you're telling me a story, I'll be like, no way, really? And I used to be a silent listener. I just look at you and nod. I would not make any sounds. I don't think I was that much of an active listener, but I'm much more of an active listener right now. Because a few years ago, when I came here as an exchange student, a few of my friends told me that they're never sure if I'm listening or not because I don't really react. And back then I didn't really know what they mean, but it was because I was just silent when they were speaking. I was just staring at them. Do you see yourself living in South Korea forever? Are you thinking of moving back to your home country? I used to think that I could live in Korea forever, but around last year I reached the conclusion that I don't think I will be staying here forever. I'm not sure if I will move back to my home country. I might have to find a country that's more suitable for me. I don't really have a specific country that I could name right now, but I don't think that it's going to be Korea forever. I think it's mostly because life in Korea is so fast-paced. Currently, with my current age, I'm in my mid to late 20s. Right now, this type of fast-paced life is good. It feels like I can advance my career. It feels very good to have all these opportunities and have this surrounding that just moves really fast, and I can move fast with it. But there are times where I want to be slow and I want to relax, and I'm struggling to find spaces to relax when everything is just moving so fast. You know, maybe I will move back to my home country at some point, not just because of things that are related to Korea, but also because I started missing my family a lot, especially now that I am approaching my 30s. I'm also starting to notice that my parents look older every time I visit. Even my siblings start looking older every time I visit. It does make me feel worried a little that at one point I'm going to regret not spending more time with them. So this type of issue is something I used to not think about at all. Are you considering taking the test for Korean citizenship? I already took that test, but taking the test doesn't equal getting citizenship. Like, you have to take the test and then you have to apply for citizenship, and there are also other requirements that you have to meet. Basically, the Korean citizenship test is the same test that you take to officially prove your Korean level. So I took it to prove my Korean level. I didn't take it to get citizenship. But I think what you're trying to ask is if I want to become a Korean citizen, whether I take a test or not. I think I would have to look into it. If it makes my life easier here, why not? But if I would have to throw away my Swiss citizenship and also my Turkish citizenship, because I already have 2 citizenships, I mean, I wouldn't mind having 3 different passports if that's even allowed. Not sure what the law is. If it is possible, why not? But I think I have to stay in Korea a couple years longer to be eligible for it, since there are these very specific requirements to even become a citizen. Usually it takes years. We've already kind of touched this topic, but how do you manage living so far away and not seeing your family? Do you feel homesick, or is Korea now more of your home? The first time I came to Korea, I came as an exchange student. And back then, I'm sorry to my family if you're watching this, but I did not really miss my family because I knew I'm gonna be back in a year. So what does it matter? But now I'm here in Korea and I don't know when I will move back or if I will move back. So I do feel homesick now because there is no certain end in sight. Do I consider Korea my home? Yes, I do because I pay rent here. I consider Switzerland like my original home. While a lot of people think that I used to live in Turkey, I've never lived in Turkey. My ethnicity is Turkish, but I've never lived there. My first home is Switzerland and the home of my roots is Turkey, and I think my current home is also Korea. So yeah, 3 homes. How did you and your boyfriend maintain your long distance relationship successfully? I hated being long distance. Because if you love someone, of course you want to be with them. You don't want to be thousands of kilometers apart from them. I met my boyfriend during my exchange studies, so we spent a lot of time together before we became long distance because I had to go back to Switzerland to finish my studies. While I was in Switzerland and was about to graduate, COVID started. Okay, let's not even get into that because I don't think anyone wants to talk about the pandemic anymore. I think what helped us make long distance work is trusting each other and communicating. I know it seems like common sense, but honestly, that's just all it is. I mean, I can name more specific things, but it all falls into these 2 categories. So it's trust, communicating, and of course you have to like each other. Like if you don't like each other, then you're not gonna be able to commit to this long distance relationship. We would always call each other, we would always text each other, but at the same time, we knew that both of us have their own lives and we knew there's a time difference. So we didn't get mad at each other if someone didn't respond for 5 hours or 10 hours or sometimes even a day. I mean, we both had our lives and we trusted each other that if someone doesn't text for half a day, that it's not a huge deal. One important thing is if you want to make long distance work, the end goal has to be that you're going to close the distance at some point. If none of you considers moving to the other person's country, then it's not going to work because you do have to. I mean, are there people who stay long distance forever and enjoy it? I don't think so. I think the goal has to be moving together, closing the distance. And I wanted to move to Korea for work anyway, so that worked perfectly for us. Do you and your boyfriend ever have difficulties because of language differences and cultural differences? Language and culture is quite connected. Before I was fluent in Korean, but even right now it happens sometimes. Apparently, I have a very condescending way to speak in Korean. I don't know exactly what it is, but I guess because I used to keep my grammar very simple, so it could seem quite harsh or condescending. My boyfriend told me that and I explained to him that I wasn't aware and then we're over it, just things like that. Any issues that are caused by me not being able to speak the language perfectly, they can be solved really easily. I just inform him, hey, that was just a language thing. I didn't do it on purpose. And then he's like, oh, okay, cool, makes sense. I think it's a little bit different in case of cultural differences. Just because something is a cultural difference doesn't mean that you guys can agree on it. One example would be, well, this does not apply to my boyfriend particularly, but a lot of times when you date someone in Korea, they will be used to texting you a lot, especially in the early stages of dating, I think. Let's say your culture is not texting a lot and their culture is texting 24/7. You're just gonna have to find a compromise. So I guess with cultural differences, you just have to talk about it. You have to realize this is a culture thing, and then you have to try finding a solution that works for both of you. Oh wait, there's one cultural difference that did make me get really upset. And it's a really silly thing, but I just got so mad. Okay. My boyfriend and I, we had agreed on going on vacation together. And that was back when we were long distance, and I had put him in charge of bringing towels to our Airbnb because the Airbnb didn't provide towels. But all the towels he brought were tiny. They weren't like the big towels you wrap around your entire body. They were like tiny towels that I guess men wrap around their hips. And I was like, wow, you just brought these tiny towels even though I asked you to bring towels. Do you think this is enough for me? And he was just so confused and was like, okay, oh, I'm sorry, what kind of towels were you expecting? I was like, well, big towels. So I thought he was being inconsiderate, but actually most Koreans use tiny towels. Even women use tiny towels. They take the towel, dry their entire body, and toss it away to wash it, I guess. So that was a cultural difference that we were not aware of until years later. If you decided to get married, would you do your wedding in Turkey or South Korea? I would not do it in Turkey because only my faraway relatives live in Turkey. My immediate family lives in Switzerland and my boyfriend's family lives in Korea. So it would have to be either Switzerland or Korea. And I think weddings are super expensive in both countries. I think we'd have to make a comparison where it makes the most sense financially. I have friends who've done weddings in both countries, like one wedding in Korea and one wedding in their country. Yeah, we'll just calculate what makes the most sense. Do you want children? And if yes, would you want them to grow up in Korea or in Switzerland? You guys are making me think about the future. I guess the school system in Korea isn't that nice for kids. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of competing, but there are international schools that work very differently. So either I would raise them in Korea and send them to an international school, or I would raise them in Switzerland. But it also depends on where I just live. Honestly, I don't think I would move for the kids' sake. I would just raise them wherever I am. What was your dream job or life plan before this whole adventure in Korea started? I used to always want to become a judge because as a kid, I just thought it looked so cool when they took the hammer and hit the table with it. I was like 5 years old. Usually kids want to become a vet or something. But I've never really had a life plan before I came to Korea. It was always just going to school and going with the flow and trying to figure out what I want to do. I've never had this huge life plan. If you had any advice to give your younger self that could also help us, what would it be? Very basic, but honestly, just do what you love, because a lot of times there will be people telling you to do this, to do that. People will pressure you, or you will be ashamed to do what you want to do for whatever reasons it might be. Just do what you love. Because if you love what you do, then you will be happier. That's all. Okay guys, we're through with all questions. Thank you everyone who sent in questions through Instagram. If I didn't get to answer your question, please comment it down below. I will try to answer some of your questions in the comments. And I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel to support me. And I hope to see you next week. Bye!